I'm going to demonstrate my approach to drawing a page. On the board is going to have a couple of things you want to be aware of. Typically, the boards are done on 11 by 17 Bristol boards. So this final outside line here is your crop margins, and anything that goes outside here is considered a bleed. So now the word balloons, they fall within this inner box right here. So anything that lands within this area is going to be considered safe. So I'm going to do a quick layout of Black Panther and Captain Marvel. So as I'm reading the description, I'm getting ideas about what's going to happen on the page. And sometimes I'll thumbnail it. I'll get a piece of page and just, do some quick little thumbnails and just kind of flush out that area. Sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 thumbnails of this one page. And typically a thumbnail is not that big. Some people do like large scale thumbnails. It's really up to the artist. Everyone's different. So what is going to happen is going to crisscross. So you have energy crisscrossing this way. And close out right here, these heads right here. So I'm thinking already Black Panther. I know I want the energy to kind of go in like this direction. So I'm going to just quickly throw some lines to kind of help sell that energy. And what's going in this direction, meaning these are the major pieces of this page that's going to make up this entire page. It could be a character, it could be a background. So I'm going to start thinking in that direction. So I'm going to start thinking Black Panther core. Core of the body is the center mass right here. Once you establish this center mass, then I'm going to quickly scribble where I think his head is going to go. Then his pelvic area, his leg, his other leg, his forearm from this hand all the way down to the elbow. So as I'm going, I'm constantly just dividing and laying out a grid. And the grid consists of these lines, the center lines that divides the body in half, that cuts the chest. All these lines here I'm going to go through. I'm going to start to establish where is this character going to live in this space? What angle is his leg going to be at? Where is his back going to be? Where is his shoulder going to live? His chest. So all these tiny marks, they're just tiny little scribbles, just so I can connect them later and then get you to basically understand what am I drawing. Now, part of establishing the dynamics of this piece is by moving fast. If I'm doing this stage slowly, it's not going to come out how I'm thinking. It's going to come out pretty stiff. And right now, I'm just trying to establish where's this character going to live in this space.
And if this feels fast for you, we slow it down and go a lot more in depth in the course. So check that out.
Now, I'm going to throw some secondary lines to help with the perspective of this. Right now, I'm just roughing it out. You don't have to be completely accurate, it's just to get a rough idea. The gap between the panels, it's about the size of your pencil. So just if you want to think about it like that, that's about the size between here. Typically draw top down, but it's not mandatory. You can draw this panel first and then draw this panel second. But if you're going to draw this panel first and then you're going to move on, be careful because your hands are going to be here, moving around, smudging, and making a lot of mess. So I always start off with the eyes. This is how I draw every single time.
Do you notice the difference in speed here? I'm slowing down a little more at this stage, but not too much. Keep the energy up and don't get stiff.
As you can see, I'm establishing the contours of the character. This is before I go into any shading. I have the rough layout, and I'm just going to continue in this process right here until I have this entire character drawn out how I want him to look. You can continue even further through the background if you choose, and then go in and start doing some shading. Something else to point out, when you're drawing, from time to time, you want to do this trick. You can pick it up like this and just look at it in reverse. And this is where you see a ton of your mistakes. If you have a mirror, it works great. Pick up your page, look at it in the mirror. You're flipping it in reverse. What it does, it tricks your brain into seeing your art in reverse and all your mistakes come up. All right, so I'm gonna try and fix this area. I saw a mistake. The lower half of his chest needs to be adjusted. You want to be able to do your mirror trick as you're going. Don't wait. So if you're waiting till you're completely done, then you might fall in love with a certain part and don't want to erase it. You're like, oh, I really like this arm. I really don't want to erase it, or you just don't want to lose it. So you want to, before you even get to that arm or you get to finishing something off, flip your page around. Great. All these little marks that I'm making here, they're basically just connecting points. So I'm not trying to think of the entire leg and draw the entire leg complete. I'm thinking of it as pieces of a puzzle, and then I'm going to connect those pieces of the puzzle eventually in time. This is another strategy that I use when I'm drawing. I flip my pages around and I'm looking at it, the character at multiple angles. And now just by flipping that around, I'm seeing even more mistakes. So I'm just going to keep going back and forth and keep massaging this one until it's correct. Here we go. There it is. When I'm actually working on a page, time changes. It really depends on the content of the page. I've done pages where it's taking me 2 days to draw. And then I've done pages where I've been done with that page in like an hour and 20 minutes. But average, I would say it takes about 3 to 5 hours to finish off a page. It doesn't really matter if it's an intense action scene or just a couple of talking heads. I want both pages to look dynamic. Everything needs to have like a superhero look to it. So you want to be able to act it out. So what I do is I put myself in the position of that character. If I'm drawing Black Panther, I become Black Panther. If I'm drawing Captain Marvel, I become Captain Marvel. You know, you have to basically act that role of the character, and then that's what helps with character position, you know, body angles, and help with all that. In general, the hardest part when I approach a page is going to be the layout. Although it's not hard, I would have to say it's the hardest part, because you're trying to establish this scene. You're trying to figure out, should I have this character looking up, looking down? Is this going to be wide panel? You know, am I going to go vertical with this? You know, all these things are playing in my head, so I'm trying to figure it out. Typically, I just try to stick with whatever the script says, but that's like the roughest part for it for me. So I do 100% of my thinking in the layout stages. If there's any changes, it's the massaging that's happening as I'm drawing, meaning I will adjust as I'm moving forward. But once I have the layout, to me, it's locked. It's pretty much locked in and I'm ready to go. So going through that battle in your head, like what do I need? Should I need more of this or less of that? I kind of go through all of that in the layout stages. So I won't have to do that in the final stages. Because if I do it in the final stages, that means I'm going to have to erase a lot. I'm going to have to change something. I might end up erasing the entire page, and I'll go in another direction, change the angle with this character on that side, or maybe move this character to the left or the right, you know, something like that. But I try to avoid that, and it's mainly for the sake of speed, because when you're drawing comics, you don't have the luxury to toss the page and start over, or sit on a panel that you know can take you 3 hours and it's taking you a day and a half. You know, you just don't have that luxury. You got to get things moving. So that's why I try to lock everything through the layout stages first. And once you have that, it's ready to go. Let me check it now. Okay, feels a little bit better. Now I'm getting ready to light this thing. So I'm thinking time of day, setting, or you can just keep it just like a standard 12 noon type of shot. That's like the easiest, safest route to go. We'll start with the face. I try to establish my shadows. Understand and know where's my light coming from, what's my light source coming from, and then once I have that, everything else is just in black. You know, just bring out the highlights. But I'm thinking structure, not just the contours. I'm thinking also the substructure behind it, the framework, the skeleton behind it. It's like a bunch of different pieces in conjunction, and I'm lighting all of them as individual parts, but as a whole at the same time. And how I try to establish it is by putting my pencil at an angle. So if you look at the shading, I'm shading like this. It creates a nice, smooth, solid, dark area versus having to shade like this. If I'm shading like this, now this dark area is turned into a lot of lines shooting in this direction. And you can leave a weird impression where the inker might think he doesn't want this solid black. He wants me to ink some lines really close together going back and forth like this. And that might not be what you want. It's like, say I'm drawing his chest. So I'm going to try to establish the dark areas right now. Laying out the shadows, trying to figure out where's the lighting on his chest. And then once I have this, then I'll outline it. And it's not just a normal outline. I'm not just following the line. If you look at my strokes, I'm throwing, and I'm trying to create like a lot of box type patterns because this is a masculine character. So I'm going to go a little bit more angular with the rendering. So I'm thinking keep it short and explosive. And then from there, just come back, do some cross hatching. These little short strokes that throwing back and forth like this, that's what creates the tiny dynamic areas within this piece. And I'm not trying to think about it too much. I'm just feeling it out. And it's basically coming from just me establishing these black areas. For the most part, it's just raw instinct. And I think that's something you can't really train people, because raw instinct comes from just what have you been exposing yourself to in your past. If you're locked in a room and there are only four walls that you're looking at, and that's all you look at every single day, you're not getting much inspiration. So you want to be able to expose your brain and be able to flex. Take in information, then relax. Take in information, then relax. And that's the pattern you want to go through to actually build that creative side of you. And then once you have that, it's just raw skills from that point. Throughout the years, I've learned to rely on my speed to actually help bring dynamics and to create the specific page that I'm looking for, a specific look that I'm looking for within this piece. I try not to think too much. I try to feel it. So once I get a vision, it's just a feeling from there on, and I just start drawing. There's a certain dance to it. You want to make sure that your line work is going in a certain direction, so it captures the volume of what you're trying to render. And once you have that, you have a solid page, it's ready to hand over. You can give it to your inker. You'll sit back and watch your inker, have fun. Once you finish penciling a page, how do you prep it correctly for inking it? In Marvel's The Art of Storytelling, we have a lesson just for that, along with texturing and even more shading and rendering techniques. That's over at proco.com/Marvel.